40 clubs from all over the state are at the Bay this weekend for the New South Wales Inflatable Rescue Boat Championships, and conditions today were perfect. 120 heats, eliminations, semi-finals and finals will be conducted over the 2 days, with 5 separate events to be decided. While the sea conditions do determine the nature of these titles, each driver and crew person is taught to avoid craft and gear-shattering collisions with the waves. However, once in a state championship, it's either stop or flat out, no in-betweens. One of the major events is the assembly, and local crew Catherine Hill Bay were in sweep-effervescent form in their heat. A tremendous motor and fuel tank assembly. A flying start saw them in a strong position, and they stormed home to advance to the next round. Tea Gardens Hawk's Nest are another crew who will take a power of beating in the same event, but the Sydney Siders will be out to try and stop the local surge for glory. At the International Hockey Complex, the pace was somewhat slower at the inaugural Vintage State Hockey Championships. 10 teams from New South Wales are after the most senior prize in hockey, and for these men, all over 50 years of age, it's a chance to keep fit, have some fun and maintain a lifetime interest in the sport.
It has brought a lot of players back to the game that in past years probably would have given it away in their low 30s, and it's continued in the game, and a lot of them got into management, and that's been great also for the sport of hockey in New South Wales.
Still at Broadmeadow and hockey, but this time indoors, 12 teams from all over Australia have been taking part in the National Roller Hockey Championships, and today the finale to a week of intense competition. Townsville won the second division, and in the Open First Division final, it was a battle between Victorian club Mordialloc in the black and Stafford from Queensland in the blue. Michael Sermon put the Queenslanders in front with a fine goal. But the brilliant Chilean Rene Munoz grabbed a goal that had his side Mordialloc lead 3-2 at half-time. Chris Raggett got his name on the score sheet, and it was a real dogfight for the Australian title. But again Munoz was there, and with superb teamwork and individual skills, Mordialloc scored and raced away to win the crown 6-4. It was try time for the Rosellas, and they gave their backs plenty of opportunities. Baker set up there first, on to Tim Morrison, and Craig Hubbard accepted the pass to finish an excellent Rosellas move from within their own half. 10 minutes later, West were at it again. Brett Hode busted the Cessnock defence straight up the middle. Tony Price trailed him through, and he was finally brought down only centimetres from the try line. But a quick play the ball to Hode had the lock diving over to score next to the uprights. 5 minutes later, number 3, as Peter Chapman made a strong bullocking run from the 22, got a dubious pass on to Mitchell storming into the play, and he found Jason Sheamer on his left, and the winger made good ground to touch down under the posts. To cap off a great first half, the Rosellas went to a 26-0 lead through Tony Price, who gave a super short ball to Craig Dodd, and he did the rest to score without a hand being laid on him. Last night at Townsend Oval in the Mush, Souths opened up a handy 16-4 lead when Darren Ford grabbed a kick behind the defence, and winger Jamie Hadfield came from a mile back to win the race and touchdown for the try. But Lakes made a spirited comeback in the second half to storm home and take the match 22-16. Al Green has been in brilliant form, and he opened well once again. But Tucker levelled at 31 apiece at quarter time. Greg Stokes was proving that his inclusion in the Saints outfit has been a godsend, with a delicate little left-hander, while there was nothing subtle about James Bullock at the other end. If ever a player can dominate a match, it's Michael Johnson, and for a brief period in the second term, it was a magic show. And Neil Turner was in the clouds to give the Falcons an 18-point lead. Back came the Saints through Simon Kerr with a big 2 points, and veteran Tad Duffelmeyer also swung into action to have the Saints within 4 at the last change. Chris Dill showed the way home. With only minutes remaining, the Saints levelled the match at 104 apiece. And Tucker gave them the lead. Duffelmeyer went to the charity stripe to give them a 4-point cushion, and even though Jerry Everett scored with around 4 seconds remaining, it was too late, and the Southern Melbourne Sweat Hog Saints were home by 2 points. The two-day carnival was a rip-roaring success with crews from all over the state competing for the ultimate prize, the state championship. Kiama Downs were declared the outright winners with 11 points, 2 clear of Nobbies and Soldiers Beach. A further point back was Mona Vale and Taraji, followed by Catherine Hill Bay and Coaldale on 6 points each. Tea Gardens Hawks Nest completed a rare double in winning back-to-back titles in the IRB A-grade rescue tube with a fine team performance. Also a win of note was Nobby's great form in the A-grade mass rescue, and they bolted in to win by a clear margin. Organisers were ecstatic with the overall quality of the entries, and once again it was proved that the rubber ducks are a vital part of Australia's surf life-saving movement.
Former Mayor of Maitland and Liberal candidate Peter Blackmore is banking on a recount, postal votes and preferences to improve on the 130 votes he trails Labor's Tony Keating. A notional preference count is underway in Maitland. It's an unofficial check of preferences that could help the two main candidates. It's expected to go on into the evening.
If it comes our way, it'll certainly mean that we're going to have to spend quite a bit of money and a lot of attention to the seat of Maitland, the hub of the Hunter, and I think that's what the people are giving us the message about.
A final official tally for Maitland won't be known until Tuesday at the earliest. Labor's election campaign targeting the hurts of trade unions, power workers and the Teachers' Federation seems to have hit home in the seat of Cessnock, won by Labor's Stan Neely over the incumbent Liberal Bob Roberts.
I think that the Labor Party has brought home the recognition to government that there is concern out there in the community, and they've expressed that concern through the ballot box.
In Newcastle, former independent member George Keegan's family says the city's loss is their gain. At home today, Mr Keegan blamed a large voter swing against him on what he called Labor's scare campaign.
They raised issues that were straight out blatant lies and caused a concern in the community, and I think the people of the regional live to regret it.
High school teacher Bryce Gaudry, who's successfully led Newcastle back into the Labor fold, is determined not to lose touch with the voters who put him there.
I'm sure that they're aware, as will the other major parties be aware, that Newcastle people won't cop promises that aren't followed up on. So all of the Labor Party promises in this election were clearly budgeted and costed and prepared to be carried through.
In other northern seats, the coalition retained Upper Hunter, Myall Lakes and Gosford. Wyong appears to have gone to Labor. The money comes in the salvo's time of need. The nationwide Red Shield appeal is in need of $31 million, a third of that earmarked for welfare services in New South Wales alone. The recession and its destabilising social effects have doubled the number of direct requests for help, and the salvos say there are still many more people wrestling with guilt and pride before putting their hand out. The local fundraising target is $500,000, and volunteers did their best to door-knock the city. If you weren't at home, you may have dropped off a donation with one of the many bucket brigades operating throughout the region. If you missed out altogether, donations can also be posted to the salvos. Red Shield fundraising efforts continue throughout the next month. The alleged leak that put the cat among the magpies and dulled the lustre of their 41-12 victory over the Knights seems to have sprung from Newcastle rather than any informer in the West's camp. While Magpies coach Warren Ryan went on a headhunt for the phone caller who'd apparently tipped off McMahon of Jim Dimmock's inclusion as 5/8 to replace injured Ivan Henjak, the Newcastle coach gave his version of events. Probably of more worry to fans is Newcastle's mid-season slump. Outshone at Campbelltown by a fleet-footed West side, they're now struggling for badly needed form to salvage what they can from the 12 remaining matches. A fast rethink is needed.
We've got to look for mobility. We've got to look for greater contribution by our backs. Before, the idea probably was for a side to get forward dominance and then for the backs to finish. I think now, new rules, new interchange rules, new play the ball rules, 10-metre defence. I think it's the reverse. It's up to the selectors to come up with a side that can play this game under the new rules that now is required at this first grade level.
In his report before Council last night, Town Clerk Barry Lewis recommended that where buildings are demolished in the civic precinct, the area should be top-dressed and used temporarily as a resting place. But that recommendation was washed over by a successful resolution put by Alderman Nichols for the demolished area to be used as a temporary car park.
It's to provide the greatest use of that area for the greatest number of people and improve the residential amenity of the residents of Cooks Hill.
The City Centre Traders Association, who has been pushing for a car park to boost business, has applauded this latest decision. But the car park proposal has its opponents.
Don't you think it's nicer to give the people something that they would really enjoy to come to, a grassed area, a park?
Alderman Gumas says the car park idea is contrary to the Town Clerk's report.
Yeah, the whole report to me made a whole lot of sense, and I went into council thinking, well, this is one thing I can certainly agree with, and suddenly I was confronted that we want to make it a car park. Well, there's no way I can agree to that.
Those who are opposed to the car parks say there are too many questions that remain unanswered. How much is the demolition going to cost? Who's going to pay for the installation of the car park? And is there going to be a car parking fee? In fact, one group, the Newcastle Civic Association, has today written to Council saying for it to give up its heavy-handed approach to demolition, leave the buildings as they are, and instead call for an international design competition for the area. The Building Trades Group, which had reached an agreement with the Council over the way demolition and redevelopment should be approached, now wants to go back to the negotiating table.
I don't think Newcastle needs another car park. The two car parks that are now there are underutilised. And the necessity is just not there. We really need development in that area, and we had an agreement that would produce those goods, and unfortunately it's fell a bit foul, but we certainly may be able to recoup some of that ground when we talk to Mr. Lewis.
It's been a nervous 5 days for Bob Graham since Saturday's poll, but today party scrutineers from both sides admitted the Liberals candidate had a 131 vote lead.
It's the result that the people of the entrance have given us. They've asked us now to carry on with the work we've done for the last 3 years, look after them for the next 3 or 4 years, and that's what we're about to do.
But while the Liberals are claiming the victory, the official result is not expected till next week after a recount. Adding to the confusion, the Labor Party says a Supreme Court challenge over voting legislation could vastly affect the outcome, and they're not admitting defeat.
We're nervous, but we're still hanging on.
The Labor Party claims 3,000 of the 32,000 votes in the entrance were marked with ticks and crosses and hence were judged invalid. Labor candidate Grant McBride was conspicuous by his absence, party officials unable to contact him. Downing the champagne, Bob Graham said he had important work to continue in the area. Premier Greiner had congratulated Mr Graham this morning on a victory which will save the coalition government in New South Wales. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Jim Heaton has been camped at Minmay Glen for 2 days, and he'll be here another 2 days, waiting to cross this line first and buy the land he's had his eye on for weeks. What made you come here on Tuesday and start waiting?
Well, I live just around the corner, and I've been keeping my eye on the block that I'm interested in, and I know there's a lot of people that wanted to buy it, so I thought, well, if I'm going to spend $40,000, you might as well get what you want to buy.
But there are others, all attracted by the prospect of first pick of the cheap home blocks just released by Newcastle City Council. There are 45 lots, each priced between $35,000 and $43,000. But if you're interested, there is a line and a waiting list, and the 6 people who have already gathered have staked their claim. But if you want to join them, it's not a bad life.
Sitting around the fire. Last night we watched the State of Origin in wetter conditions and what they played in.
Reading, playing cards, looking at what I'm about to buy. That's about it really.
And despite the rain and mud, you can be sure the crowd will have grown when the day comes to sign on the dotted line.
The properties will be sold on a first in, first purchase basis. We have marked the entrance there and be the first person at that entrance that we'll be dealing with first.
Quit for Life continued its campaign against smoking in public places during this morning's No Tobacco Day launch. School children wearing protective rubber gloves combed them all, picking up cigarette butts discarded by careless smokers. The final tally was a telling reminder of the effect cigarettes have not only on the smoker, but others alongside them in the community. Lord Mayor John McNaughton agreed.
It's great to see them more clean, but it's a pity that people are so filthy as to throw them down in the first place.
The Lord Mayor cut a chain of cigarettes, symbolically launching World No Tobacco Day in the Hunter. The day is the culmination of a week of campaigning by the Quit for Life group. They say it's been an effective operation.
Of course, the most effective thing is to stop kids from starting, then there are no problems. But that when people are ready to quit, we're here to help them. So we're working on both angles.
Newcastle City Council on Tuesday night passed a resolution for most of the buildings in the area of its civic plan to be demolished and a car park be installed until development begins. But the Building Trades Group was alarmed at the lack of information surrounding the resolution and arranged this morning's meeting with the Town Clerk, Barry Lewis. Group spokesman Phil Darby said he asked Mr Lewis how much the demolition would cost, what kind of price tag would be attached to the car park's installation, and would there be a parking fee. Mr Darby claimed the council had passed the resolution without considering these questions of cost. He said the group was also concerned that a civic car park would not bring more shoppers into the city, but be used only by those who worked at the taxation office. With its questions unanswered, the group has called for a 2-week moratorium on all demolition in the civic precinct. The unions also asked the town clerk what would happen to the $2 million insurance money received for earthquake repairs to the Frederick Ash building now that council had rejected the idea of restoring it for council use. The town clerk said he hoped to have answers for the car park questions when he met with the unions again within the next 2 weeks. On the question of how the $2 million insurance money would be spent, Mr Lewis said it would be used for refurbishment of buildings of some description.
"19 elite powerlifters from all over the state took part in the titles, with 11 divisions being contested for both men and women. The men's weight divisions ranged from 52 kilograms to 145 plus kilograms, and the ladies from 44 to 90 plus kilograms. It was an important event for the competitors, as performances here will go a long way to gaining places in the state and indeed the Australian teams, and this year Australia will host the world titles in Bendigo during November, the first time the nation has been granted the titles. Leonie Gurham was in devastating form in the women's 53 kilogram division, breaking 4 Australian records in the bench press, squat, and in the deadlift she lifted 145 kilograms to smash another record. Also in great form was Joanne Edwards, who equalled Leonie's performance of breaking 4 national records, and in the deadlift, Joanne lifted 180 kilograms, only 20 outside the world record.
The theme of World Environment Day is no excuse, let's reduce. It's hoped everybody will help conserve the Earth's resources.
Well, it reminds us, for a start, that it's one very small planet, our little spaceship, and we've got to look after it. We're all driving this spaceship. It's only small, it's only got limited resources, so let's look after it.
Water, electricity and transport authorities will be monitoring loads on Wednesday, hoping to see a positive response to a 5-point conservation plan. People are being asked to use carpools, ride bikes, walk or use public transport. Garbage should be sorted for recycling and shoppers should avoid buying goods in packaging or plastic containers. Too many pollutants are still being poured down the kitchen sink and water conservation can pay off.
If a tap drips at the rate this one is, that's going to cost you at least 2 cents a day, and that adds up over a year. So by turning off a dripping tap, we're going to save money.
Big savings can also be made in turning off unnecessary lights.
In this room, for example, there are 54 fluorescent tubes burning away. If nobody's going to be in this room for the next hour or so, why not turn off all the lights, and we're going to save not only money but the Earth's resources.